Okay, so we're here in Autodesk Inventor 2018. Okay, so we have our splash screen here, and we're going to go ahead and close this. Now, this is just 2018 kind of in a nutshell, so we're just going to review basically the whole thing in like 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, so it's going to give a good solid overview to using Inventor. All right, so Inventor basically has, so when we close that splash screen, Inventor basically has just a few file types. All right, and you can get to those. You have a couple new options for files, but if you go to this top one right here, you see the 4 basic file types. Okay, presentation you would use at the very end. That's to make like a video of your assembly. A part is the basic thing that you're going to work on. Okay, so if you can imagine, like if a keyboard was drawn in Inventor, each key would be a part file. Okay. And then we have an assembly, and that would be like if you took all the key files, put them together into the full assembled keyboard, right? Okay, so essentially the top of the holder, the bottom of the holder, all the keys, that would be an assembly. Okay, one individual key, that would be a part. All right. Drawing is like a classic plan drawing. So if you're familiar with the multi-view drawings, that's a drawing. Okay. And so basically what the process here is that we draw parts individually, okay? Then we put those parts together into an assembly, and then we can make drawings of the parts or the assemblies kind of automatically once we have them modeled in 3 dimensions. Once you get good at drawing, okay, so initially you're going to make parts and put them together in an assembly. After you get more adept at using Inventor, you will just work in an assembly. Essentially, you'll start in an assembly, you'll make parts in an assembly, and make parts like interact with each other in the assembly. Okay, and it's really it's a lot easier when you're doing something complicated because of the fact that the parts you can see the other parts that you're working with and use those dimensions of the other parts. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So basically, we're going to make a part file. Okay, so to make a new part file, we're going to click Part. Okay, the extension on a part file is a .ipt. Okay, Inventor, all the information is stored in IPT files. Okay, so it's kind of similar to if you make like a project in like a video editing software, where you have all your clips in a folder, and then basically you put them all together in the video editing software. But if you move those clips anywhere, everything goes awry. Okay. The same thing is true with Inventor. So basically what you want to do is you want to store all of your IPT files in one folder with the assembly, with the drawings, and then never move them. Okay. So basically, because when you look in, once you assemble all the part files, it's going to refer to a place on the hard drive. It's going to load them from the hard drive. If you start moving files around, you're going to have to go find them or recreate them. Okay. So essentially, when you think of an assembly with a bunch of part files, you have to think of it in terms of, okay, it's all in one folder, or where are they located on the hard drive, all right? So in order to do that, so basically when we start an IPT, the very first thing we're going to do is go Save As. We're going to choose a folder. So in this case, we're just going to make a new folder in Documents and call it Project. Okay, and remember, this review here is just the simplest, most straightforward way to do it. Okay, we're going to call this Part 1. We're going to call this Block. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Okay, so now we have this block IPT, all right? And if you'll notice here, basically nothing is on the screen, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, so now we're working in a part file, an IPT file. The very first thing we're going to do is that we're going to make a 2D sketch, okay? And we're working in 3 dimensions, right? So there are 3 planes in 3 dimensions, right? There's the X, well, we can look at them. So basically, we're going to start this 2D sketch. Whoops. So we're going to click Start 2D Sketch. Okay. Now notice these planes come up. So we have the YZ, we have the XY, and we have the XZ plane. Okay. Now this would matter if you're planning on putting things together. You can make your life easier by choosing one over the other. It has no benefit. It doesn't matter which one you start on if you're just making a couple of parts, right? So basically we click that Start 2D Sketch, we choose a plane, and we click on it. Okay, now we are in sketch mode. So when we're working in IPT, we have 2 modes. We've got 2D mode, okay, that we can draw in, that I'm about to draw in. And then we have 3D mode. That's where we apply a 3D feature to a 2D sketch, all right? So in this case, we're going to go ahead and make a rectangle, okay? Now in some drawing programs, you click and drag to draw a rectangle, but not in Inventor, okay? You click, move the mouse, and then you click again. Okay, that's how you draw. Okay, click, move the mouse, click to set the point, all right? Now, you'll notice that Inventor automatically made this rectangle using what are called 2D constraints. All right, now we're not going to go into those now, but notice these things that are drawn here. See that this is a parallel line here, parallel line here, parallel here, parallel here, and then this is a perpendicular constraint. Okay, so it made a rectangle based upon those constraints. All right, now we don't need to know that now, but just be aware of it, okay? The reason why I say that is if you start here, if you put your cursor here on the very center point and draw a rectangle, it will lock it to that center point. It will cause you problems later on, okay? So don't start on the center point, just avoid it, all right? Okay, the very next thing we always do, you must dimension in 2 dimensions. If you do not dimension, it is going to come back to haunt you, okay? You're going to try to assemble your stuff, nothing's going to fit. If you don't dimension right off the bat, you're doing it the wrong way, okay? Seriously, because we don't know how big this rectangle is. Is it the size of a football field? Is it the size of the state of Delaware? Is it as big as France? Is it as big as Texas? How big are all of those things? I don't know, okay? But we don't know. Is it in millimeters? Is it in inches? We don't know. Okay, so we have to dimension it. So how we're gonna dimension is that we go into the dimensioning tool. We're gonna click dimension, then we click on a line. Okay, we click, move the mouse up, click again, and then we're gonna enter the dimension. Okay, in this case, we're gonna make it 4 inches. Okay, 4 inches, enter. All right, and then I'm gonna wheel mouse, so I'm gonna wheel mouse back out. Okay, notice how it disappeared. Okay, this is going to happen to you a lot in Inventor. Okay, there's a couple different ways to do it. You can wheel out, or you can go over here on the right-hand side of the screen and you can do view all. Okay, now it's set to view all already, or sorry, zoom all. Okay, zoom all is going to put it back on the screen for you. Okay, so if you lose your drawing, put zoom all. Okay, it's going to go right back. Okay, we're going to dimension the side now, right? Okay, so we're going to click on the line, move out, click again, and we're going to make this 2 inches. All right, so now we have a 2x4 square. I can wheel on the mouse also to click out. Now, there are a couple things that you're going to try to do. When you first start, you're going to try to over dimension. Okay, now we can't do this. Watch, when I pull it out and click, oh, whoops, okay, it gave me an error, okay? It says, oh, you can make a driven dimension. That's because this is already 2D. Remember I talked about the 2D constraints? It's already constrained to be equal, or I'm sorry, parallel and perpendicular, meaning that these 2 lines by definition are equal. Okay, so we can't add a new dimension because they're already equal, basically, right? The other thing we can do with dimensions is this. We can use dimensions, we can actually just use math to dimension them, right? Okay, so let's say that I always want the height to be half the width. I can click on the dimension, I can click on another dimension, so now it's D0, right? That's like a variable referencing the other dimension. And I can go divided by 2 and hit enter. Now what I get is, if I were to change the top dimension to be 8 inches, the bottom dimension would change also. Okay, so essentially what you can get, if you're slick enough, you can basically draw an entire thing that if you change 1 dimension, it just springs the whole thing in the exact proportions that you want, all right? So it's very, very useful. Okay, we're going to not go into this anymore. Dimensioning tool is really useful. Okay, we can actually do things like this. We can make, we can do between 2 lines. We can do from one line to another. Okay, so we wanted to say, oh, not dimension the line, but from one line to another. We could do that as well. But the other thing that people get stuck in is that they don't realize, okay, oh, now I'm clicking and nothing's happening. There are no dimensions. Well, now I'm out of the dimensioning tool. Okay, so once I'm in the dimensioning tool, how do I get out of it? Well, I right click and I click either OK or I click cancel. Okay, this is called the heads up display. And what it is basically you can right click. Holding down the right click, you can go over to a command and then you can release the right click. And so instead of a click, move, click, it's a click, drag, release. Okay, it's just faster basically. All right. Okay, now, so we have this 2D dimension, we have this 2D drawing done, it's been dimensioned, okay? But now we want to turn it into a 3-dimensional object, all right? Well, how do we do that? Well, we can't do it in the 2D mode. So we're in 2D drawing mode, we have to get out of it. And how we do that is we click this finish sketch right here, okay? So we click Finish Sketch. Now, the easiest way to know, and then we click Zoom All, the easiest way to know that we are out of a 2D sketch is that you notice the lines are gone, so we don't have any of those grid lines. If you see grid lines, you're probably in sketch mode, all right? All right, now, the other thing that people starting out don't realize is that they don't realize this is not a hodgepodge of stuff, okay? It's not a bunch of random stuff piled in here. Everything that's in here is reflected in this browser bar over here. So right now we have sketch 1. A very common thing when people are starting is that they create sketch after sketch after sketch with different objects and different sketches, okay? That's not how you do it, all right? So you create a sketch. If you want to go back and edit the sketch, you go over to the browser bar and double click on the sketch you want to edit. Now we're back in sketch mode, and now we can go and change this. Let's say we decided, oh, the dimension was wrong. We want to change it to 4 inches, and now we finish sketch again. Okay, now we're back out into 3D mode. All right, so we have this rectangle that we've done. The next thing that people often get wrong about Inventor is they think they can do a bunch of stuff in one sketch. Like say that we want to put holes in a block, like a block with holes in it, okay? Like we're going to do right now. They would draw the rectangle and the circle and everything in one thing and then want to make a bunch of different stuff in one 3D, like a bunch of different features in one sketch. That's not how it works. Okay, so basically you make one sketch, that sketch is consumed by the 3D feature as I'm about to show you. Okay, so now we're going to make it into 3 dimensions. We click extrude. Extrude is like the most basic thing. Okay, it's the most useful and most basic thing in Inventor. We click extrude. Okay, and basically that's it. Now this will auto select. So because I only had one sketch on here, this auto selects. All right, now if I wanted to make a circle in here, the easiest way to make a circle in here would be have just to do what I'm about to do next. Okay, so this would have been an extrusion. Let's say that I wanted a circle hole in the middle of this block. The easiest way to make that circle would have been just to put it in the sketch. So I'm going to go back in and double click the sketch. I'm going to make a circle in the middle of the block. Right click OK. I'm going to go ahead and dimension that circle. Click, pull out, click again. I want a 1-inch dimension. Okay. I want the middle of this circle. Whoops. So I want this circle from the middle of the circle to the side. I want that to be half of my width. Okay. I also want from the middle of the circle to the top, I want this to be half my height. Okay. Divided by 2, right? Okay, so now everything's proportional. We're going to go ahead and click Finish Sketch. Okay, so now what I have here, let's say I wanted to put a circle in the middle of this block, right? Now I'm going to click Extrude, and notice I can either select the circle or I can select the outside of the block. In this case, I'm going to select the area outside the circle, okay? And notice that if I use this view cube up here, to turn it around, notice that all I'm getting is the block with a hole in it now, okay? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and click OK. All right, so that is at the most basic, that is the block. Now let's say I wanted to put other 3D features on here. Okay, now be careful because remember that the IPT is supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be one piece. So if I was making a keyboard, I wouldn't put all the keys on here, right? I would make one key, right? And then in the assembly, I would duplicate all of the identical parts in the assembly. So I just make one key. Now, obviously on a lot of keyboards, all the keys aren't identical, but some are, right? So basically I'd make one IPT and I'd duplicate it for all the identical keys. But let's say we do want to make something a little bit more complicated on here, all right? For example, let's say we want to put another hole in some other side of the cube, all right? Well, what we would do in that case is we'd actually start a second sketch in the IPT. And that sketch can live anywhere on any one of these surfaces, all right? So let's go ahead and we're going to make a second sketch. So start 2D sketch. We're going to put it on the side here. And notice that now this sketch lives on the side of this rectangle, okay? And all we're going to do in this case is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put, we're going to make a rectangle. So we're going to click here. It's easiest to draw when you're looking straight on, okay? So if we click on this cube here, it's easiest to draw when we're looking straight on. And we can dimension from the sides and top here. So in this case, we're going to make this 1 inch. We're going to make this side 1 inch. We can actually just make it the same, right? As the top. Oops. Glad I made it not that. Okay, we're gonna make it 0.5. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and make these two things. We're gonna make this 1 inch. Actually, we're gonna make it 0.5. Oh, I got myself into a problem, didn't I? I get you, I know. Okay. Okay, so what we can do is we can do, you can actually do complicated math in here. So you can do 2 minus 0.5. You can actually do 2 minus, and then divide it by 2. Oops. Okay, so basically I took the width of it and then subtracted this value, whatever that is, and then divided by 2. Now, obviously, it's not totally proportional because I didn't make the width proportional also, but you get the point. Okay, so the last dimension we'd put in would be from the top to the top here, so then it would be fully dimensioned in. I'm just going to accept it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead, and the other thing I want to kind of show you here is in 2 dimensions, we're going to click fillet, okay? I'm just going to tell you that nothing is absolutely square. If you look at everything you buy, nothing is an absolute square rectangle. So please, as you're working in Inventor, do us all a favor. Don't make a bunch of rectangles, okay? Seriously, okay? Thank you. All right. Okay, so let's say we want a 2D to fillet this. Okay, notice that we have this side here. Okay, so a fillet is basically, okay, and then we're going to right click OK, and there we get, it just rounds off the corner there if you can see. Okay, so we're going to go finish sketch. Now we're going to go ahead, and extrude is really useful because of the fact you can either add material. So let's go ahead, we're going to extrude it. We're going to select this profile here. Now notice that we can either extrude it, okay, we can extrude it at a distance, we can extrude it to next, between, all, or distance from face, okay. We can also cut. Okay, so that means we're going to make a hole, right? And we can extrude some distance into the shape. We can also use an intersection, okay? So that means we're going to just leave what intersects, okay? If that makes sense. All right, so extrude is really versatile and very, very useful. In this case, we're going to go to next, all right? And so basically what that's going to do is it's going to cut through to the circle right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All right, so that's our IPT. So we're going to go ahead and save it. All right, so that's saved. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a second IPT, all right? Okay, and all this one's going to be, we're going to do another part. We're going to immediately save it. We're going to call it peg. Okay, remember we're going to start our 2D sketch. We're going to choose a plane, click on it. Now we're in sketch mode. We're going to make a circle. Okay, we're going to dimension this circle to be 1 inch. Okay, now in a lot of cases you're going to be actually fabricating these. So remember that in reality, two things cannot be identically sized and have something fit in another thing. Okay, it's not, it seems possible, but it's not. Okay, so it has to be slightly smaller, right? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and finish sketch. Then we're going to go ahead and extrude. Okay, and we're going to make this, we're going to extrude it 4 inches, and basically we're going to get a 4-inch peg. Okay, we're going to click zoom all over here. Okay, so we have a 4-inch peg. I'm going to go ahead and save that. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do an assembly. So we're going to go ahead and click assembly. Okay, so now we're going to put these two parts together. All right, so we went ahead and clicked assembly. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to click, you can either click place or create. So remember I said that usually, eventually people get to the point where they're just creating IPTs from inside an assembly. Initially though, don't do that. Create your IPTs separately. So we're going to click place. We're going to go find our IPT, okay, in this case block. And basically, if you click, it'll place it, right? Okay. You can click again. You can click a third time. Okay, you click as many times as you want parts, okay? In the end, you're going to right-click and click OK. All right? Now notice that we can move these around. If you don't want it to move, you can right-click on it in the browser and click Grounded, okay, if you choose. All right? You can also delete these. The easiest way is to use the delete key. You can also right-click and delete, okay? All right, so we have this IPT. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to place our second part, which is our peg. Okay, so that's our peg. Now notice that, so that's our second thing right there, all right? Right-click OK to finish placing. Now, what a lot of people do when they start is they just put this peg right in here, or they don't realize where they're moving things, all right? So a lot of times what's easiest to do is to move it in 2 dimensions. So basically click on the view cube, move it to where you want it in 1 dimension, then move it around and move it to where you want in the 2nd dimension. Okay, but moving things around and place them is a mistake. What we want to do is we want to constrain things, okay? So let's take a look at constraints. Constraints mean to limit where a thing can move, all right? Where a part can move. All right, so in this case, we're going to constrain, and we're actually going to constrain the center lines. Now, I'm not going to go into this now, but just know that you use constraints. Okay, so we're going to constrain the center line of this peg to the center line of this hole. You hear the sound, we click apply. Okay, and now notice what we have is that peg now, even though I'm dragging it all over the place, it cannot move away from that center line. Okay, so when you're putting things together, everything should get locked in. The other thing that we can do is we can do another constraint, and we can lock the top of the peg. Notice that in this case, we're going to use a flush constraint. Okay, mate flush. We can lock the top of the peg to the top of the block and click apply. All right. Okay. Now, okay, so that's an assembly. So let's go ahead and go ahead and do our drawing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open a drawing. Now this is where we want to make plans that we're going to send off to have something fabricated for us. A common thing for this would be if you want to have something made at a machine shop or something like that, this would be a case where you would make these are the types of drawings that you would send. Okay, so basically what we have here is we have a drawing. Now remember, the common thing that people forget here is that this drawing is giant, okay? The paper that is the default paper here is giant. It will not print out on your printer, all right? So the very first thing that we want to do actually is we want to change the properties of sheet 1. You can go edit sheet. And the size, we're going to change it from size D. We're going to change that to A4. Okay, and that's like a standard printer size of paper, all right? Okay, there we go. I also just go ahead and delete this whole thing down here usually, but we're going to leave it there for now. Okay, mainly because we're not drawing professional drawings. We're drawing it for a class, so we don't need a title block really. Though a lot of times people do like to have it in there. So there we go. You can just delete it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a base view here, okay? And we're going to go ahead and choose, instead of Assembly 1, notice anything that's open will just be a drop-down menu right here. Otherwise, you have to go and find it. We can take this block view here, okay? We're going to make the scale 1 to 1, all right? And we're just going to go ahead, whoops. I'm going to go ahead and move it down here. All right, then we're going to go click Projected. We're going to go up to the side, and then we're going to make an isometric view on the top. Okay, when you're done, click Create, and that's basically it. Then the other thing that you can do now, the annotations, basically you're supposed to put, you're supposed to label everything correctly, all the measurements. You can actually do this automatically, and it gets quite a lot of them in there. Okay, I'm not going to go in there now into this now, but basically, to add dimensions, you need to go in and basically add in dimensions where they're supposed to be. And you don't want to over or under dimension. And if you start talking to, especially like people that are professional draftsmen, they will have a lot of opinions on what is correct dimensioning, and you can have people arguing over correct dimensioning for a very long time. All right. What I will say though is that the automatic dimensioning in here is pretty good. Okay, so if you start out with the automatic dimensioning, you get a long way to getting the correct dimensioning. Okay, so that is, okay, so the last one we're going to do is we're going to do a presentation. Oh, we never saved our assembly, did we? Whoops. Okay, I should have saved the assembly. That was my mistake. We're going to save as assembly 1. We're going to call this block and peg. Did I black and peg? Okay. All right, there we go. All right. Okay, we're going to insert model, and we're going to go black and peg. Okay, and so basically what we're going to do here is that this is where you would create essentially a video. If you've ever seen a video of like parts exploding out, this is where you would create that video of the explosion of the parts or something like that, some demo. You can also do things where you can get very complicated with constraints and whatnot to be where you can really make a realistic demo in here. There are a lot of things you can do with Inventor that we haven't gotten into, but this will get you a long way down the road to doing Inventor. So those are the 4 basic types of files, and that's taking from a 2D drawing with dimensions up through an individual part, 3D part, and then combining those 3D parts into assemblies. So best of luck.